FM.
Welcome along to another episode of the Disability Life podcast. I'm joined today by a TikToker, and his name is Alex Mackenzie. Welcome along, Alex.
Hello, Peter. How are you?
Doing very well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited for this conversation and excited to sort of tell my story to your audience.
Of course. So, your disability is of cerebral palsy.
I've got
Wait,
spastic diplegia cerebral palsy.
I was going to say which type, and you've just answered that question. So, yeah. Yep. So were you born on patrol?
Yes, I was. I was supposed to be born in June, the 9th of June. I was actually born on the 23rd of March, so I was fairly undercooked. The doctors told my parents that I wouldn't speak, that I would live in a vegetative state. Help if I could get me words out, wouldn't it? And basically that my life wouldn't amount to much, and I'd need constant round the clock care. And as I say, I wouldn't be able to communicate. Ironically, I've got a degree. I'm in a long-term relationship with my now fiance, and I'm a broadcaster and radio researcher and podcaster. So yeah, everything that they said, I've managed to disprove thus far, which is quite cool.
Certainly. And this was 1999 you were born.
No, 2000, but yeah, I
No.
I was just on the millennium.
Yeah. Um, and so I'll obviously go on TikTok, which we'll get to it in a bit. But I see you've got a manual wheelchair, and of course you've got your little step thing, your little walker frame type thing there. But was electric mentioned at all in your life?
I've just got an electric wheelchair. Literally just. I've had to self-fund it. But yeah, me and Chloe were sort of we went to Nadex last year to basically wheelchair shop and see what options were out there for me. As I say, you've probably just seen my carer come in and bring me a cup of tea. But I want to be as independent as possible, and it was quite funny. I kind of railed against the idea of an electric wheelchair for ages because I was of the opinion that it would make me look more disabled and I didn't need it, blah blah blah. But ironically, just as I was finishing my placement with Radio Wales, um, Chloe had some friends come over from Ireland to London. I don't know if you know Neve Dunphy. She also does social media and she's got cerebral palsy herself. Her and her boyfriend Carl came over to London to visit me and Chloe, and they're both in powered chairs, and they were zipping around London like no one's business. And I thought, hang on, technically, well, I can't speak for Carl because he's not got cerebral palsy, but technically, Neve is more disabled than I am. And she was coping a lot better with London than I was because she was motorised. It was a real eye-opening moment. And then that was in September. As I say, in April, we went to Nadex, and about a month ago, I took delivery of my new quickie, and it's been a great sort of help to my independence. I've still got to sort things such as wheelchair accessible vehicles, but and I'm also in the process of a move across country. So I'm still in the process of sorting things, but exciting things on the horizon in terms of my independence.
Of course. Have you heard about mobility?
Yes, I said I don't drive because I'd be scared of I'm not very spatially aware, but my parents use my mobility car, and when I move down south, of course, that will go to my partner. So I've been in mobility vehicles for a long period of time.
Yeah. And with your electric wheelchair, have you taken it for a spin? Have you crashed into any lampposts or anything?
No, I will say this. I haven't had any kind of ridiculous experiences with the electric wheelchair because I've not had it long enough. However, when I first got my manual quickie, um, my local pub is at the top of a hill, and I managed to get up the hill with some friends. This is way before I met Chloe, and it's a rather steep hill. And there's blackberry bushes along the side of this walkway, like literally running all the way down the road. And I didn't have wheelchair gloves at the time because, as I say, it was my first wheelchair that I could actually somewhat push myself, not properly. I mean, I struggle getting up curbs and things, which is why I got the electric. But it was the first one that I could sort of move anyway. And I was pushing myself down this slope, and I was, of course, I'm at this point, I'm used to being pushed. And I didn't clock how quickly I was going, and I didn't want to put my hands on the wheels because friction burns. So I just sort of let myself go, and I was going so quickly at this point that I couldn't stop myself. I started to really panic, so I'm like, right, I need to like almost attempt to beach myself. So I go towards the grass. That didn't really work because there's not enough grass between the walkway and the bushes. So within literally a week of having the wheelchair, I ended up face first in a bush. The funny thing about that is now all of my friends regale the story of when I had a quickie in a bush.
That's just about broadcastable, that is.
Yeah, no, it's to say, uh, they take great pride in laughing at me about that. So yeah.
Well, it sounds like a brilliant story to put up on YouTube.
Yeah, if you get clicks out of that, I'm grateful, and I hope that you get your clicks out of that, Peter. I really do.
Oh, it's just clickbait at this point.
Absolutely. If you can get some extra views off my embarrassing stories, I'm all here for it. I really am.
Good. Oh dear. Um, Thankfully it was a long time before you met Chloe anyway, so that's good then.
Well, I say long time. It was probably about a year and a half, but yeah.
Okay. All right.
Um,
Yeah. So going back a bit. So as I before we start recording, I could see that you could actually walk. You've got your kind of walking balance stick next to you. Did you always have that?
yeah, I mean, I hated it at the time, but from the age of sort of, well, that I can remember, from the age of sort of 3 to about between 14 to 16, I had quite intensive physiotherapy. Uh, no center of gravity. I cannot walk without my sticks or my walking frame, and even then, I can't walk great distances. Oh well, I can't walk distances at all, really. Um, sorry. But it's a case of it's easier to get around the house, and yeah, they don't really go outside. But for modern British homes, at the moment, I'm not in a position where I have a space big enough to use a wheelchair. And to be honest, I don't know how much I need to. So it's a case of, it, depending on situation, I either use my walking frame. I've got a modified walking frame for going on the beach, which is cool. And yeah, I've got two wheelchairs now. So basically, I've got a fleet, and I actually live in a house with stairs, and I've got two handrails, and then I've got an upstairs pair of sticks and a downstairs pair of sticks, and we sort of that's how we operate.
William. So in the years growing up, school, how was that? Was it mainstream schools you went to in?
Yeah, no, I've been mainstream all the way through education. I've grown up in Leicestershire, Um, and yeah, to be fair, my I feel a bit sort of ev every other disabled person I've met, and a lot of able-bodied people I've met, say that they were bullied. And I never really was, because I learnt to be quite quick-witted. So if anyone said anything to me, they'd get it tenfold back, and I wouldn't even have to be offensive. That's one thing I'm quite good at. I'm quite quick when it comes to, you know, comebacks and stuff. So basically, because I never really like, I sort of kept myself to myself. I didn't really have any issues. The issues I did have, people worked out that unless they wanted various jokes coming in their direction, to leave me alone. I dealt with a lot of loneliness, and I wasn't bullied so much as excluded, but that only became a sort of issue as I went into my sort of late teens. And I don't even think that that was on purpose. It's just, you know, society isn't properly set up for people like us, and I'm sure you and the majority of your audience know. So, you know, when you're, you know, when I remember when I was sort of 17, turning 18, going out into Leicester every weekend, you know, you very quickly realise that clubs aren't meant for disabled people, nor are a lot of bars, and that I struggled with that. I did quite well in my education. I'm more a creative than an academic, but I wouldn't say they were the best years of my life by any stretch. And as I say, if you've or any of your audience have seen me on any other podcasts, I wouldn't say I'm particularly proud of my disability. A lot of what I had to deal with growing up was my own internalized ableism, and I'm still. If anyone said to me, "Are you a proud disabled man?" I'd go, "No, I'm not proud to be disabled at all." And I kind of, while I respect other people with, you know, different points of view and are able to say, yes, I am proud to be disabled, I'm not. And I'm not sure if I ever will be. But, you know, I'm in this position. I want to make the most of my life. And I kind of realised that as I progress in my career and hopefully into the world of broadcasting, it's kind of my responsibility to, while not, you know, spend the whole of my existence going, oh, look at me, like, I'm disabled, this is great, like, blah, blah, blah. You know, I do have to, I feel a responsibility to put effort, quality into the content I create, and hopefully to show employers or people that haven't really experienced disability that, you know, we are one, valuable members of the workplace and also valuable members of society. And that was why Sticks and Copper was created, really, because I just got very sick of the whole, oh yeah, I'm disabled, I can't get out the house, you know, I have to like pay a load of carers, and you know, I struggle to do X, Y, Z, but my life's great, you know, I'm unemployed, but that doesn't matter. You know, that's all I seemed to see on disability Instagram, TikTok, and
Yeah.
I wanted more for my life. I wanted realistic. This is, oh well, sorry, I'm rambling. But when I got my traineeship with Radio Wales, I cried when I saw that I paid tax, because that was all I ever wanted to do. I just wanted to put back in, and the fact that I paid tax, honestly, I sobbed in the bathroom when I found that out. And it was a stupid amount. It was like 200 quid. But I was like, finally, I've put back into the system. Um,
But at some point, you're going to get that back.
Yeah. But yeah. So
Um, so, and then, so when did social media come in for you? When did that sort of become more prominent? More, oh, let's do this.
are you talking sticks and copper, or are you talking my social media?
Just talking in general about social media, you know.
Well, I've always been on social media as, you know, the average Gen Z. I was always using social media to showcase my art and my work because at the time I wanted to be a fine artist and graphic designer and follow in the steps of my father. But and this is way before I discovered my love for audio. But also, as I say, like I struggled with a lot of internalized ableism, and that led to me being incredibly depressed in my mid to late teens to the point of suicidal ideation. And well, I don't know how much you want me to go into that. I used to do the standard thing of sticking a load of either really depressing art up or really depressing Instagram stories up. And then one day, Chloe, and it's an interesting story of how I met Chloe, found my profile, responded to one of these Instagram stories, just saying, I hope hope things get a bit better for you. Have a nice day. And we haven't stopped talking for, well, 6.5, 7 years or so. So yeah, that was that.
So how did she? So was she already following you, or was it just a
Um,
random story?
how that works, and I don't know if you know him either. I feel like I'm name dropping every disabled person I know. Um, but there's a personal trainer called James Sutcliffe. Um, he was on this morning. He works with a Leicester-based rehab organisation called the Matt Hampson Trust. But when my dad works in a graphic design studio. One of his designer buddies, because at this point I'm 16, 17, I'm wanting to get into the gym. One of his designer buddies was like, oh, there's this bloke that specialises in disability and training the disabled. That is also from South Leicestershire. You should contact him. So I did, and while I've never been in the Matt Hampson Trust because I say that's a rehab facility, James Sutcliffe, for a year, trained me at a local gym. I no longer train with him, and I'm still at that gym, but with a different trainer. But he was using me to put on his Instagram to like as he was doing with all his clients. I wasn't special as such to promote his work with the disabled, which is why ITV were interested in him and such. And she followed him because she's always been a sort of disability ally. She's always been sort of more into the disability activism as I am. My mother-in-law has, her own disability. And various issues that I'm not going to get into with disability and stuff like that. And my mother-in-law. I find incredibly inspiring because she just cracks on. You wouldn't A lot of people wouldn't know if they looked at my mother-in-law that she deals with it as much as she does. But as I say, like Chloe had always grown up with sort of that inner thing and in her life. And then she liked James's profile because of that. Then I was on James's profile, bish bash bosh. If that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense.
So,
So that's interesting. Um, and so you're talking about graphics, so you're talking about your art. When did that sort of come in? Did it come through? You mentioned your dad's a graphic designer, but was it more school, college, GCSEs, A levels, university? Was it more art based?
um, I've always been fairly pretentious, as I say, because of course I wasn't learning to walk. I was preoccupied with other things. As I say, my dad's been a graphic designer, working for an agency here in Leicester for as long as I've been alive. He does a lot of, well, the company he works for does a lot of branding and corporate work. Um, and there was always a Mac in the house as a result. So from a very early age, I was messing around on Photoshop and stuff. Um, and then because it was fun and I enjoyed hanging around with creative people, I kind of followed that up all the way into college. And then when I couldn't get employment for the gap year that I took in 2018, I was like, I'm going to go and get a job. And that was the first time I was properly discriminated against. I went, oh, this is funny, Peter. I genuinely thought that because I'd not been bullied throughout my life, I was going to be the one disabled person that didn't get discriminated against. Sorry. And then I tried to get a job and went, oh, okay. Um, and my best friend at the he's recently come back into my life. One of my best mates, Jared. Um, he was doing a fine art foundation degree at De Montfort University, and as I say, it's in Leicester. And he went, oh, like come and see my show. And I went, yeah, go on then. Right, my mate's an incredible artist. He's a proper fine artist. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll come and see your show. And I just realised that it was surrounded by, really incredible creatives. And those are the people I enjoy hanging out with. If you make stuff and you've got your hair dyed, you're most likely going to be my friend at some point. Which Chloe teases me about for, like, because as I say, most of my social group were you know, either depressed, LGBT, or had like various, hair dyes and stuff like that. So I've always been around creatives, and then I found the media production degree at De Montfort University that had a various different modules in it. And then we had to take a mandatory sound module. And as I say, I went to uni going, I'm gonna go and make films. Um, but then one of my tutors showed me Adobe Audition, and I got into editing sound, and it became an addiction. And then I realised that I could talk to people, which is my main like passion in life. My favorite thing is to chat to people, and I could also make it artsy with audio and sound design. And then I went, right, screw the film, screw the art. I'm gonna go and be a sound designer, podcaster, radio engineer, anything sound based. I'm all over. So yeah, that's what I've been sort of focused on for the last 5 years or so.
You sound like my sort of guy.
Well, thank you,
Um,
Peter.
so was it just the 3 years of undergraduate?
Yeah, I've got a bachelor's degree in media production, first class degree. And also I studied during COVID, so a lot of what the course was sold on, we didn't actually get because it's quite difficult to, do TV and radio production in proper studios, when you can't do anything because everyone's locked down. So I spent a lot of my time, teaching myself audition, messing around. I remember that I made myself sound like the Mandalorian. And that was quite fun for a bit. My university had a student radio station. I was doing that for about a year and a half. As I say, I had to produce radio programming for my course, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. And then one of my best mates, who I met in the gym, um, is actually was sort of they're on a bit of a creative hiatus until next year, I believe. But I met the guitarist of a local Leicester band called Easy Life, that then got sued by EasyJet and had to change their name to Hard Life. And I met Lewis, and I interviewed him for a school one of my broadcasts because, as I say, uh, they're signed to Universal Music, and I thought, well, that'll be good. And then I just sort of realised that rather than just my passion for talking to people, talking to creatives that know their stuff and know their industries is another level. And that was when my sort of audio went from, right, I enjoy this as a means to talking to people, and I enjoy messing around with audition, to I want to be one of the best broadcasters in the country. And that was that switch.
Let's go on to Chloe for a little bit now. You said that was about 6 or 7 years ago. Was that during university?
That at the time she was in college, I was in the first year of university. 2019, we were talking. We sort of started talking around late January, early Feb, and then she she came. We were talking for about a month between sort of early January and then in February. She said, I want to meet you. I was desperate because we were talking for literally as since I've met Chloe, we haven't stopped talking and we speak constantly. And then because she popped up on my Instagram, I just assumed that she'd be, in Leicestershire. I was genuinely of the opinion that she was probably somewhere not that far away, like Loughborough. And then when she said, I said, "Oh, like where are you from?" And she goes, "Oh, Sussex." And I was like, "Oh, cool." Like, but I wasn't expecting it. And then yeah, she and her family came to Leicester. I showed them where we keep the king that we stole from the Yorkshireman. Uh, I showed her Richard, showed her around Leicester town centre, and yeah, we and then I went down to Brighton and so on and so forth, and we've been in a long distance relationship for since February 2019. But as I say, that's going to end soon because I'm going to be in Brighton um, starting February. So yeah, exciting stuff.
By the time this goes out, you'll be already be down in Brighton by this
Will
point.
I be? Oh, I'll tell you what, next time if you do interview me again, Peter, I might have a southern accent. We'll see.
You never know, do you? And you might sound a bit like me then. So it's
That's what I'm hoping for. It's the only reason I'm moving down so I can sound like you, Peter. It's the only way.
Ash Brothers. That's all you want in life, isn't it? Always like mine. Um,
Absolutely.
yep. And so when because Chloe has a disability herself, but it's more of a hidden disability, isn't
No, that so Chloe, yeah, Chloe is able-bodied as such.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you were talking and you were dating? When did you because I know you from the Alex and Chloe TikTok
Hmm.
profile.
Yeah,
When did
sticks
you
and copper.
start thinking about doing one together? And
Well, as I say, I've never been a hugely proud disabled person. There was a lot of and still is a lot of internalized ableism with me. Uh, I spent the majority of my life pretending that I was able-bodied and I can't get away with pretending to be able-bodied, Peter. It doesn't work. I'm not that. I can't. I mean, for God's sake, I can't balance. Try and take one step and the illusion falls flat on its face. Haha. But Chloe always said that that was quite sad, and she wanted to help me through that, which I completely agree with. But one day, I can't even remember what post it was. I saw a load of people on her Instagram page because, as I say, she followed a load of Instagram people that were disabled, and all it seemed to be was, I can't work. I've barely got any funding from my local government. I really struggle in my own house. I really struggle to socialise, but my life's great. And I was there is a reality to this. And I'm all for disability pride, but there's a lot in British society that we still need to work on. From my perspective, it seemed to be, well, I think it's changed in the last few years, but at the time it was very much, just because the Equality Act 2010 is a thing doesn't mean that we are anywhere near where we should be in terms of media representation and especially jobs and employment. And I went, this is just not realistic. I wish someone would come on Instagram or TikTok and say, you know what? I do struggle with this. I don't like the situation I'm in, but this is how I'm making the most of it. And she went, well, why don't we? Um, and that was that really. Um,
So, so it was just one day I said to you, let's make a TikTok.
well, first it was an Instagram page,
Oh, okay.
and then the TikTok came when sort of everyone was jumping on TikTok, and yeah, that's that really. And then we just started posting. There's no, even to this day, there's no content plan for Sticks and Copper. And then because I wanted to get into the world of radio, I was producing podcasts. So the Brennan Audio podcast kind of linked in with Sticks and Copper quite nicely. And, I was interviewing people. We've done a few media appearances. As I say, I did a internship with BBC Radio Wales for 4 months. And I got that basically because I'd done a load of disability content for BBC Radio Sussex. I'd been on Radio 1 talking about disability. I'd kind of been around the block a bit. Me and Chloe were interviewed by a feminist media organisation called Frida. That was fun. We went to London for that. But as I say, I spend my days editing podcasts, editing other people's content, creating stuff for Sticks and Copper, and as I say, I'm hoping to get back into the world of commercial broadcasting soon. So, Peter, if you've got a budget and you want me to edit this podcast, I'm more than willing to do that for you. As I say, I don't know if you know Charlie Randall, but I edit a load of his stuff, and that's sort of what I do. I create Sticks and Copper content. I broadcast I go and help uh, organisations with their disability coverage, and I make things that sound as good as I possibly can, and that sort of Sticks and Copper kind of complements that nicely because it's, as I say, just a documentation of mine and Chloe's lives.
Well, funny enough, I edit other people's podcasts for them as well.
hmm so yeah,
Well, I do a lot
um,
of that. So, but I just had a quick look at your TikTok. You've got 1,953 followers at time of recording, I should say, on the 16th of January. But your views, you get quite a lot of good views. You get 4.4, no, that's not it. 447. You've got 5K. One of them got 7K, nearly 8K views. You get a lot of good views on your videos. The ones I've seen on TikTok anyway. So
thank you.
you're doing very well.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. As I
It's all
say,
the hashtags that helps.
um, while I'm very much involved in Sticks and Copper, a lot of the ID generation comes down to Chloe, and a lot of the time Chloe just goes, "Oh, we should film this," and I'm like, "All right then, like, cool." And then I'll edit stuff and put them up. Oh, as I say, I'm very much post-production sort of orientated. So she'll film a lot of the stuff. I'll edit the stuff. I'll do voiceovers. We'll occasionally film each other because I struggle with the filming because I'm shaky as anything. Um, and we sort of do it like that. There's no plan. I couldn't tell you what the next post on Sticks and Copper is going to be. I don't know.
I'll
But
love to
as I
see you
said,
doing something then.
it was never. We never opened Sticks and Copper going, we're going to be the next influencers. I just wanted to put my mark on disability media, and
Yeah.
that's the goal.
Because I would, well, I wouldn't necessarily compare you to them, but I would compare what you're doing to, have you heard of a influencer on social media called I can't remember what his name is, but it's so there's other people that are doing similar stuff to what you so when I saw your TikTok, I went, it's like them two or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah. So so is that always a camera in your face? Every single
Uh,
or just oh let's just
no, as I say, Chloe's very, and a lot of the time I will say to Chloe, "Oh, that's cool. Like, we should film that." Um, to say, like, one thing I will say about Chloe is she's great at making me understand the potential I have as a bloke that is quite comfortable in me. I'm quite comfortable being filmed. I'm even more comfortable if I'm on radio. And she's great at sort of empowering me to either create TikToks or make podcasts about, my experiences with different disabled creators. So I wouldn't say that there's always a camera in my face, because or everything we do is driven by mine and Chloe's desire to make good content, but I'm never forced. It's always a joint thing. We have a shared goal, but Chloe's always been quite good at spearheading it and making me realize the power of things like TikTok. And I didn't really realize that the power that TikTok had, because um even on my minuscule scale, like these are just names on a screen, until we went to Nadex in Birmingham, as I say, for my wheelchair shopping experience. And that, we were like, oh, we're going to film loads of TikToks. And I met Charlie for the first time. And honestly, we met so many people. We met Jem. I can't remember. That's awful now. I can't remember Jem's socials. But yeah, we met Jem, and we were chatting to her. As I say, I met Charlie for the first time and his partner Gina, and people were like walking past, going, "Oh my God, that's like and Chloe from Sticks and Copper." And Jem said, "Oh my God, that's the TikTok couple." And like like we've only got like 2,000 followers or whatever it is, and it was even less in April of 2020. What year? 2024. So yeah, um, is there a camera in my face all the time? No. Do I enjoy having this platform? Absolutely.
Brilliant. And was that where you first met Jamie as well?
Oh,
Um,
Bridgman. Oh, yeah, James. No, we actually. Do you know the Bridgman?
the what? Sorry.
The Bridgmans, Jamie and Molly Bridgman.
Yeah, yeah.
No, we met them much in a similar way. We met Neve and Carl through Instagram. As I say, I'm in Leicester. Chloe was in Leicester at the time, and we were like, should we meet up? Because this is another thing. You know how earlier in this podcast I said that Chloe often teases me for my friends either being, artsy or having dyed hair. She literally, because that was another thing. I hadn't seen many people in the space that look like me, that like the same music as I did, that were as out there as I was, especially when me and Chloe started dating. My hair was bright red, and I will admit this, Peter. I didn't like a lot of disabled people. I didn't have any good sort of um experiences with disabled people. Every experience up until sort of I met Chloe and we started Sticks and Copper, I felt like I was playing a game of top trumps, because people would very often say to me, I'm more disabled than you and I can do this. And you can't complain, and blah blah. And it would always seem to be a, my mobility car is better than yours. I get more benefit, or I struggle more, and it felt like a game of top trumps. And I didn't like a lot of disabled people for that reason. I actively avoided, you know, being in disabled spaces until we met Neve and then Molly and Jamie. And Jamie looks exactly like, well, how my Spotify playlist would look if it was a person. And Molly's very much the same. As I say, they're only in Birmingham, and we just sort of clicked. And that was that.
Yeah, because I met Jamie through you. We should just say who Jamie is. Jamie is a disabled musician. shall we say, is
Yeah, he's a
um guitar.
musician, he's a guitarist,
Yeah.
he's emo as all heck, and he has got another disability. He's from Birmingham, but apparently that doesn't count.
He's a very, very nice bloke. So thank you for getting me in touch with him actually.
It's
Uh,
absolutely fine. As I say, both me and Chloe have got a lot of time for Molly and Jamie. And I say, if you fancy having the Irish on, go and hit up Neve and Carl, Neve Dunphy and what's Carl's surname? I don't know. But Carl is my favourite Irish person that's ever existed. I love him dearly, and I get on quite well with Neve too. So if you fancy having them on, go and chat to them too. But yeah, we've done quite well for
I did actually
connecting
speak
with
to
the
him.
disabled.
Well, I spoke to them last year about it.
Oh, fabulous.
Probably do need to chase them up on that actually, but yeah,
Hmm.
I was in touch with them last year as well. So
Awesome.
yeah. Um, so let's move on a little bit longer now. You mentioned your podcast. Is that an active podcast now? What's this?
Yeah, I'm actively making a new portfolio for myself, but the Brennan Audio podcast is on all good podcasting platforms. You can stick me into Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I've grown up and been raised in Leicester, but my mum's of Welsh heritage. And when I was really lonely in my early to still late teens, someone told me that I was more Welsh than I was, and that became a large part of my personality. I'm hugely proud of my very minuscule Welsh heritage. I've got a lot of love for Wales and the Welsh and the culture behind it. As I say, Cardiff is my favourite city in the world. I loved living there for 4 months, doing my work with Radio Wales. And yeah, Brennan, is king in Welsh. And that came about because I needed a username for Elder Scrolls Skyrim Online. So I just started putting random Welsh words into Skyrim, and I was Brennan Trydown on Elder Scrolls Online, and I like the sound of it. So I now own brennanaudio.co.uk, brennanaudio.com, and yeah, I've sort of branded myself with the Welsh because I'm very grateful for the time, the culture that all these people sort of gave to me and let me embrace. And I don't know if you watch Strictly Peter, but I spent 4 months being a researcher for Wyn Evans and his daily show on Radio Wales. And honestly, the amount of culture, the amount of language I learned, you know, the Welsh history and Celtic history as a whole.
And the whole go compare side.
Yeah, well, there is that, but Wyn is an incredible bloke. He's an incredible broadcaster, with
Yeah.
or without the mustache. Actually, he's not allowed to wear the mustache when broadcasting. But yeah, he was incredibly gracious to me, as were all his team. My best friend from Wales is actually a 45-year-old man called Jason. He's from Clonethley, and yeah, he took me under his wing, and he will forever be boss man, even if I end up in broadcasting house. I'm very grateful for the team. BBC Radio Wales because
I can
they
see your
let
Welsh
me,
coming through as well.
yeah, they let me embrace a culture that isn't my own. And as I say, I believed up until last year that I was like a lot more Welsh than I am. I'm actually like only a 16th. But as I say, because I've been trying to teach myself Welsh for a good decade now, and I've been so into Celtic history and mythology for so long, it's kind of become a cornerstone to my personality, which is people also tease me for. But yeah, hugely proud of my very distant Welsh heritage, and all of the stuff that comes with that.
That's good. And we're coming to the end of it now. Just one last question, and this is a question that I ask everyone on the pod.
Awesome.
One of the very few same questions, and that is of what tips or advice would you give to people with the same cerebral palsy condition as you?
Uh, you should all admire me and all donate to my podcast and give me if I give you my address, Peter, get everyone to send me bags of Yorkshire tea. No, in all honesty, and I this is quite funny because when I was at Radio Wales, Wynne actually said to me, Alex, you are going to forge a career through people asking you questions on disability. What are you going to say to them? And at that point, I didn't know how to answer that. And but then again, I tried to get work within broadcasting when I couldn't stay in Cardiff; it was too expensive. Um, so I came home with starry eyes and thought, right, I'm going to really make a go of this because I was editing stuff for an audience of 100,000 people daily. And then, still, even with that background, I still struggle to find work. And I think that people need to realise that disabled people are valuable in the workplace and in society. But disabled people also, there is a fine line between, making jokes about yourself for your own self and being the butt of everyone else's joke. I don't know where that line is, but we sort of need to be a bit more bullish, in my opinion. We need to be more assertive. We need to stand up. Not a great choice of wording from me. And actually forge disabled content and, be an active member of the media. And, people that aren't media savvy might go, well, what's that got to do with me? That's got to do with you, with the media that you predict, like consume and how you interact with things like social media. We need to be counted. We need to stop being ignored. In my opinion, like, as I say, the 2010 Disability Act is great. However, it's not enough. We are discriminated against unfairly. The statistics for disabled people in work are ridiculous. Specifically with cerebral palsy, it is abominable. And I'm only going off cerebral palsy because that's what I have and what I'm comfortable with. But I believe that we are where sort of it was in the 80s when people were making crude jokes about different races for laughs on telly. Is that acceptable? No. Was it acceptable at the time? Yes. How was it changed? Well, it was changed by incredible Asian and black creatives, standing up and going, no, this isn't how we want to be represented. You need, in order for society to take us seriously as the wider disabled community, you need to be actively involved in making that change.
Yeah.
And we need to be counted for that.
Chat your tip and advice you would give to other.
Yeah, basically get off your arses, tell your carers that you're gonna go and strap yourself to buses and all go and get jobs. And if you can't get jobs, chain yourself to job centres until they take you seriously. Viva Revolution, that's what I say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and look at Adobe Edition.
yeah. Well, no, don't do that because then I'll have less work. My whole stick, Peter, is I am the disabled podcast producer and radio engineer. Don't go and look at Adobe Audition. Don't take the jobs off me. I tell you what, all these disabled people coming in and taking our jobs, it's awful. But
Yeah,
yeah, in all seriousness, I think many disabled people have been told, either from their families or doctors, that they are made to feel like second class citizens. And The only way that we are gonna prove to society that that is no longer acceptable is if we challenge it, and you've got to get up and be counted to challenge it. So yeah, that's my advice. Uh,
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for carrying on, Alex.
it's all right, Peter. Thank you very much for having me, and it's been great fun. So I can't wait to see this. Yeah, I hope to see you soon, Peter. Thank you very much.
Voice. Let's go. Voice FM.